We shouldn't be surprised that a good deal of what's called Jewish folklore highlights the events of creation, culminating in the formation of the first humans in the Garden of Eden. Like so many other words, Eden is overused to the point that we simply accept its connotation, paradise, without wondering about its derivation. Linguists know, however, that words in various languages are connected and that a cognate in one will often reveal the meaning in another. In the case of Eden, the closest linguistic link is with the Arabic word adan, which means tranquility or languid rest. To be in a perfect state of rest is to be in Eden. It's a well-defined statement of what generations of Jewish folklorists envisioned as the world of being. Fact is, Jewish folklore, via several ancient documents from the Dead Sea Scrolls to the mystical masterwork, the Zohar, takes us right back to the Garden of Eden, through a long suppressed story about Adam's wife, not Eve, but his first wife, known as Lilith. Perennially popular in contemporary folklore, we find just a single scant reference to her in the Bible itself, where she's depicted, far from paradise, in demonic terms.
And wild beasts shall meet with hyenas, the goat demon shall cry to his fellow. Indeed, Lilith shall alight there, and find for herself a resting place. The owl shall nest there, and lay and hatch, and gather her young in her shadow.
The Dead Sea Scrolls pick up the story with another oblique reference, again with demonic overtones.
As a sage, I proclaim the glory of the divine, in order to scare away the spirits of all the destroying angels and the illegitimate spirits, including the demons, the Liliths, the owls and the jackals, as well as all who attack without warning, perverting spiritual knowledge.
Notwithstanding such dreary imagery, Jewish folklore hints that Lilith once enjoyed a high and exalted state as Adam's first partner. According to the traditional Bible story, Adam was formed from the dust of the ground, while Eve was taken from Adam's side or from one of his ribs, depending on which translation you prefer. From this, the assumption is characteristically made, at least by traditional male interpreters, that a certain hierarchy exists, in which the man is naturally superior to the woman. The Lilith story is different from the outset. The account relates that the first woman was formed not after the man, but at the same time, not from a rib, but likewise from the good earth. The essence of the relationship is partnership, not subservience. The most important source of Jewish mysticism, or Kabbalah, the Zohar, relates the following.
Come and see, there is a female, a spirit of all spirits, and her name is Lilith, and she was at first with Adam. And in the hour when Adam was created and his body became completed, 1,000 spirits from the left, that is, the evil side, clung to that body until the Holy One, blessed be He, shouted at them and drove them away.
In the early medieval tractate called the Alphabet of Ben Sirah, we find additional details.
God first created Adam, who was by himself. God declared, "It is not good for this man to remain alone." Afterwards, God created a woman to be with Adam. The woman was created from the ground, just as Adam had been created. God called her Lilith.
Lilith was, in short, Adam's perfect equal. It's precisely as we should expect in the Garden of Eden, which we might also call the Garden of Being. There was tranquility because there was harmony. The paradise of the garden is essentially egoless, framed by selfless concern for one's partner. To be sure, the greater part of holiness is egolessness. So it was during the day. But at night, the story takes a twist. Ego has a way of expressing itself under cover of darkness. Interestingly, Lilith's name is a derivative of the Hebrew word Laila, meaning night, for she was a creature of the night, and night is when the man attempted to assert himself. We're told that Adam wanted Lilith to lie beneath him, a euphemism for adopting a male-dominant sexual position. Lilith, not so politely, refused, preferring to be on top.
Adam and Lilith began to quarrel bitterly. She declared, "I will not lie beneath you, for the two of us are equals, since we were both created from the same earth." Adam responded, "I must be on top. You are only suitable to be on the bottom. My position should be superior to yours."
By now, paradise was already lost. For the paradise of the Garden of Eden, the egalitarian garden of being, was consumed in a flash of ego. Make no mistake, being doesn't make demands. Being doesn't assert its own will over another's. Being doesn't dominate. When Adam's will took over, the divine aspect of human existence was obliterated. Original innocence died in a moment's display of hierarchy. The alphabet of Ben Sirah sadly and crisply comments,
"They would not even listen to each other."
Lilith responded to Adam's will with a will of her own. She stormed off, angry and hurt. The battle of the sexes had begun in earnest. At this point, Lilith, being herself a reflection of the divine presence, opened her mouth and uttered the divine name of the deity, which mere mortals are never supposed to pronounce, YHWH. Suddenly, she ascended into the heavens and flew far away.
After these things, Lilith uttered the inexpressible divine name. Then she flew off into the sky.
Once the ego had asserted itself, the man felt deprived of the wife who rightfully belonged to him. The drive for dominance was now converted to the desire to possess and to own.
Adam stood still and prayed to the Creator, saying, "Master and Maker of all, the woman you made for me has run off." Suddenly, the Eternal, Blessed One, dispatched 3 angels.
The 3 angels, Senoi, Sansenoi, and Semangeloth, were charged with bringing back Adam's errant woman. After a laboriously long search, the angels found her floating magically upon the waves of the Red Sea. But Lilith negotiated her release from their clutches by agreeing never to harm any children wearing amulets upon which the names of the 3 angels were inscribed.
The angels related the words of God, but Lilith did not want to go back with them. The angels then threatened, "We will drown you here in the sea." Lilith replied, "Leave me alone. My only reason for being is to afflict babies with illness. If the baby is male, I exercise power over him until he is 8 days old. If the baby is female, I have 20 days of power." On hearing these pronouncements, the angels demanded that Lilith return. However, she took an oath by the living God's divine name, saying, "I promise that if ever I see you 3 angels, or your names or images engraved on an amulet, I will not exercise my power over that baby." Lilith further consented to allow 100 of her own children to perish each and every day. For this reason, 100 demons die each day. That is why the names of the angels are written on amulets worn by babies. For Lilith, when she notices them, is forced by her oath to release them from her grip, whereupon the child recovers.
Meanwhile, back in the garden, Adam was demanding a second wife from the Eternal, one who would become more submissive. Only then do we pick up the traditional biblical account about God putting the man into a deep sleep and taking one of his ribs, which was fashioned into the woman, called Eve. In due course, the human couple bore children, who in turn produced many offspring. But the experience of being in the garden of being would be forever forfeited. Lilith, in jealousy over having been replaced as a wife, decided to persecute the descendants of Eve. She would invade the homes of pregnant women and women in childbirth and administer the sleep of death.
She wanders through the world, looking for children subject to punishment. She embraces them only to cause them to die.
She would take their babies, suck their blood, and eat their flesh and the marrow of their bones. Lilith and her female demon cohorts would also prowl the earth by night in search of male seed by which they might be fruitful and multiply. For this reason, young men were to be admonished to avoid sleeping alone, lest they be molested by Lilith and her demonic horde. Even Adam was, according to the Talmud, subsequently visited in the night by his first consort, inadvertently becoming a father of demons.
Rabbi Jeremiah ben Eliezer said, "For a number of years after Adam, an evil cast out of the garden, Adam, the first human being, was separated from his wife. During this time, he inadvertently fathered many demons, evil spirits, and Liliths." Rabbi Meir declared Adam, the first human being, was extremely pious. The fact that he fathered evil spirits came about as a result of his nocturnal emissions.
Elsewhere, we find an ominous warning.
As Lilith wanders to and fro through the world by night, she wickedly plays with men, causing them to spill their seed. When she discovers men alone at home sleeping, Lilith and her demons come upon them, stealthily take hold of them, lay with them, taking their desire and bearing offspring through them. Furthermore, they bring disease upon them without these men knowing where it came from.
The Lilith accounts, taken together, form a fantastic mythology. There are a number of elements of these stories which gave the keepers of the canon cause for concern, and which doubtless prompted them to keep any mention of Lilith other than the oblique references in Isaiah, sufficiently vague, they felt, out of the sacred text. For one thing, Lilith's behavior challenges the entire claim of male superiority, trumped by generations of sages and ecclesiastics. The traditional account that the woman was created after the man and from his rib gave aid and comfort to male chauvinist religious authorities. The story of a race of demons being spawned through Lilith also seemed out of character with the sternly monotheistic tone of sacred scripture. Nonetheless, the story was eventually recorded in bits and pieces in ancient and medieval texts, as well as certain passages scattered among the thousands of pages of the Jewish writings known as the Talmud. While those references invariably referred to Lilith as a demon and the mother of demons, perhaps she's merely history's quintessential feminist who would not submit to male domination. Whatever the prevarications of religious authorities regarding the appropriateness of the Lilith saga in sacred canon, there is nonetheless a great lesson to be learned here. Adam and Lilith were meant to be co-equal, both having been fashioned from the ground. Adam nevertheless dominated Lilith because he had somehow lost touch with the world of being in the garden of being. Certainly, Adam needn't have chosen dominance. Why would he want to impose his will on the woman, since her will was just as important? The fact is, when you recognize the divinity in yourself, you don't need to control anyone else. Being is egoless. You can say, I'm special because I'm part of the divine presence on earth, and so is everybody else. All people have inherent worth. Furthermore, we should understand that we are all creators. We have the ability to create whatever kind of world we want. Of course, we go about doing this in many different ways. Adam found out that dominating isn't the way. In dominating, we hurt ourselves as well, for by hurting others, we do damage to the image of the divine in us. If, however, we let things be, we can live in harmony with ourselves and with the divinity in others. Lilith was victimized, as the story tells us, but made the same mistake that Adam made. Because she was victimized, she victimized others. Instead of calling on her greatest power, her relationship to the eternal, she became jealous of Eve. She became caught up in the power struggle and tormented her own victims. Spawning a group of demons, she afflicted women in childbirth and molested young men. By contrast, the world of being enables you to act with conscience and creativity rather than reacting to circumstances. The sad saga of Adam and Lilith teaches an important secret in dealing with conflict and potential conflict. Hold your fire. True, good deeds often go unrewarded, but bad deeds are like an Energizer battery that just keep going and going. Cycles of revenge, once regulated by the ancient law of lex talionis, are as common today as they were in these ancient sources, producing the same lamentable results. As the old Arab proverb suggests, revenge is a dish best served up cold. Dominance, duplicity, and manipulation may work as a short-term tactic, but they will inevitably fail as a long-term strategy. What goes around comes around may sound like a tired restatement of karma, but it's really the very essence of the Garden of Being.